Before I get into anything, I should clarify that this isn't normally what I make. This video is my way of giving my own thoughts to the problems with this chapter's launch, while also not throwing away the good points, as I think acknowledging the stuff that is good, as well as what's bad, is a great way to give insight to developers who may listen to what we have to say. So, with the 9.2.0 update to Dead by Daylight, Sinister Grace arrived, and with it came the Krasue and V Bunyasaka.
V Bunyasak.
On the public test build, a lot of things were tested, from the planned to then removed tunnel and slugging changes, to Myers receiving a long-awaited rework, which left most players wanting more, myself included. And a whole list of perks were changed, which would inevitably shake up the meta. But underneath all of that, the Krasue's true power was semi-left unknown, some placing her high A, some saying she was B, but on September 23rd, when the chapter arrived, and with the mountain of buffs the Krasue received, it became clear where she placed in terms of her strength. I'll first start by talking about the positives with the Krasue. The first thing is her design and overall presentation. I think the design of her base as well as store outfits are very nice, and the transition between head and human form is done very well. The second thing is the sound design, as well as the music. The music for chase and menu is done perfectly once again. The sound effect for her power, from spitting to the ancestral whip, all sound amazing. But that's about all the good I have to say for now. Let's move on to the bad. For starters, her biggest main issue, at least to me, is her whip attack. Coming out at 0.2 seconds, she can turn up to 220 degrees, but those two factors aren't the main issue. When starting her attack, she loses all collision for 0.6 seconds, which means that she can hug tech around most short loops, which were her biggest issue on the PTB, but was a fair trade-off for her very powerful kit. That being paired at 4.8 at all times, which is the fastest any killer can go without any movement capabilities, as well as having no real warning to her attack coming out, such as killers like Chucky and Pig, meant that this whip attack is dangerously lethal. That alone would already put her into the stronger side of killers, but that isn't all she can do. While in head form, she gains the ability to vault pallets. That, combined with my previous point, renders pretty much every single loop unloopable for survivors. This power being paired with an update that put most of the same loops into every realm, which she can just ignore, makes her a nightmare in chase. That paired with her headlong flight that makes W keying impossible, as she can keep up like a Kaneki can, while also having her head form be the highest third-person killer camera in the entire game, means in any loop, she will be able to see you and can down you very fast. Her base kit, which, yes, none of that I just listed includes any of her add-ons that make her far stronger if you run them, which, for example, Chicken Head starts every survivor off infected, as well as being paired with potentially 4 gen regression perks, means we have a real contender for the new best killer in the game. Which, in her current state, I think, yes, she is better than Nurse, as her chase lethality, as well as mobility, which far surpasses the Nurse, makes her very easy to play while being incredibly more lethal compared to other killers. So, we have a new best killer in the game, but that isn't all that arrived with the update. The other main highlight is the long-awaited Myers rework, and it's something. To give a quick background on how important Myers is to DBD, he was our second ever chapter. He was the main reason a lot of people gave the game a chance, myself included. He had a very distinct identity ever since he arrived, And 9 years on, his rework arrived, and it just felt really lackluster. He now has two stances, Stalker and Pursuer, which function similarly to Evil Within 1 and 2. Pursuer mode is the least interesting of the two. He just functions as a normal 4.6 killer with slight perks base kit that make him feel fine, and Stalker mode allows him to, well, stalk, while being restricted to 4.2 and being undetectable. Once you stalk enough survivors, you gain access to Evil Incarnate, which allows you to access his brand new M2 attack, Slaughtering Strike. Slaughtering Strike is a new dash that acts similarly to a pig ambush, the main difference being the ability to destroy pallets with the attack. However, in my games trying it out, I found it's really restricting to use as a dash, but rather more optimal to just back rev someone, similarly to Hillbilly, and insta-down them, or even foregoing this playstyle and running Fragrant Tuft of Hair, which removes the dash and reverts him back to his old base kit. The attempt to rework Myers has made his base kit better, but leaves him with a dash that is, in my opinion, very add-on reliant, which to me is a failed rework again from Behavior. I really do wish I had more to say for Myers, but the new edition just feels incredibly stiff, as well as hard to get value unless you use it in a very uninteresting manner. However, I don't want to end this video on a bad note, so I'll talk about some of the minor changes to the killers, as well as some perks. The Ghoul, who has been an issue for a lot of players, has finally had one of the most annoying parts of his kit removed, which locked survivors into place while he vaulted behind them. The Unknown received some very much needed quality of life changes, which allow it to aim higher, as well as having the weakened status effect last longer. Dracula received a few changes, most notably nerfing his wolf, which was warranted. Clown also received a slight revert to his yellow bottles, and Oni now gets more blood orbs for hooking survivors. All of these are great changes to me, but some of the add-on changes, more specifically Unknown and Dracula, were, in my opinion, unnecessary. A major list of perks received changes, but to go over some of the more important ones, I'll talk about Off the Record, Vigil, Deerstalker, and Hex Ruin. Ruin is getting its own special segment because in my last video I used it and now the information is wrong. Off the Record now only gives no scratch marks instead of also removing grunts of pain and providing endurance for 80 seconds. To me, it's questionable that they do that, considering the tunneling changes didn't go through, but they have said that they will be revisiting it very shortly. Vigil no longer stacks with itself, which allowed survivors to have a 16-second exhausted state, which is a very good change. Deerstalker now functions as a killer version of Object of Obsession instead of showing auras on down survivors, which is a lot more interesting, and Ruin has been buffed back to 150%, which will undoubtedly throw us back into a meta for killer builds that involve Hex Ruin. I think what went wrong with this chapter was how ambitious Behavior tried to originally make it. With the tunneling and slugging changes that got completely scrapped, the new chapter's killer and survivor to balance around, and even reworking a killer with all the other tweaks, I think Behavior tried to do too much all at once. Speaking on the Krasue herself, I think Behavior has overtuned her far too much from the PTB, and I feel that they should just be reversed. But I also think that they should remove Infection whenever you are hooked, and give a longer cooldown to her spit attack, as well as adding a buffer before she can attack out of her spit attack again. These changes hopefully will make the Krasue way less oppressive and slightly more enjoyable while in chase, both for the Krasue and for the survivor. If you've listened all the way up to this point, I'd like to thank you and invite you to give your own thoughts in the comments below, as well as subscribe if you enjoyed the video. I'll be streaming the remainder of this chapter's launch on my Twitch, so be sure to check that out if you'd like. But with all that being said, thanks for watching and have a good rest of your day.